New resident orientation. That's just a fancy word for lease signing. My assistant, we do a 45-minute to an hour new resident orientation. I'm not one of those to say, just give them the lease and go for it. I want somebody to go over the lease with them. But I make mine a little bit different in terms of how I present it. I want the resident to see how they can win. A lot of times when people are doing a lease, they feel like, okay, you're getting ready to tell me the rules about what I got to do and what I can't do. I'm trying to present that in a different way. I want to present it in a way in which this lease has different things in here that can help you be a winner. And that's how we phrase it. How you can receive anniversary gifts each year. I let them know every year on your anniversary date, as long as you paid on time and there's no damages when we do our courtesy maintenance check, we give anniversary gifts each year to our resident. Now that sounds to me a whole lot better than you got to pay the rent on time. In other words, I'm giving them an incentive to do what I want them to do. For me, that works out better. You do whichever way you think works out best for you, but I'm trying to put it in a whole different frame of mind. How to keep rent increases very low. And how do you think I'm telling the residents they can do that? Pay on time. Be good neighbors to any neighbors that you have, and take care of your property. Again, I'm saying the same thing that you may say, but I'm giving them an incentive for doing so. You get anniversary gifts, you keep your increases very low. Of course, in these times, I need to take out that very and just say low or lower. Keep your rent increases lower. But what's the point I'm also making? There will be an increase. I hope you all caught that. I don't want to surprise them. I want them to know up front there will be rent increases. You can still win if you have to move out early. What am I referring to? The early release fee. You can still win. You won't have to pay the additional months left on the lease. We will not be taking you to court. You will not be held accountable for anything after the time that you move out. We offer an early release fee. Again, I'm presenting it in a positive manner as opposed to a negative manner. Bonus for a Facebook post. At the time that they're doing the resident orientation, pull out the computer. Are you on Facebook? Can you put a positive post about us on our Facebook page? Why even do something like that? I don't know about you, but reviews are becoming a powerful tool that more and more people are looking at even before they rent a property now. It may not be that much in your area, it may not be affecting you right now, but I'm trying to plan ahead. And the more positive posts that I can have, the better, because sooner or later, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a negative post. And so I'm trying to outweigh a potentially negative post by having some positive posts. So we give a bonus. I mean, where did I get this idea? There's an appliance place in my area. I went to buy a refrigerator. They said, we'll give you a $10 discount if you do a positive post on us on social media. Okay, I'll take the $10. We'll do a positive post for you. Well, I just took that same idea and said, you do a positive post for us. We'll give you a $10 discount off of what you're getting ready to pay, or we'll give you a gift certificate to the local restaurant. Get all your deposit back when you move out. Well, how do they get all their deposit back? What do I bring out at that point? Move out checklist, the charges and all that. We do not want this to be something that we're taking your deposit. Here's how you get a full deposit back. So I hope you see what I'm doing here. Our new resident orientation is an opportunity. We go through the lease, But at the same time, I'm letting them know we're giving you an opportunity to win. Talking about the lease, I give you a sample. Well, new resident orientation. Communicate in a positive manner, at least. This is under objectives. So I want my assistant to communicate in a positive manner, at least 4 ways of what a resident needs to do to be able to win in this relationship. I want that to be on her mind as she's going through it. Did you discuss at least 4 to 5 ways on how our resident can win? Look for nonverbal or verbal signs that indicate that the resident may not be satisfied with this future relationship, and stop the leasing process if after further discussion such signs indicate a potential problem. So she's having a conversation. This person starts saying, well, by the way, are you going to be doing this? Or, wait a minute, the way that lease is written, I don't like that. Or, I'm not sure about that. Well, fine, Mrs. Jones, let's stop. Let's talk about it. Because if this is something that you're not completely happy with, satisfied with, we need to stop this relationship because we want the best lease. We want the best relationship for both you and us. And if this is not the best type of lease arrangement that you are going into, then it might be better to lease somewhere else. So she's listening and watching for verbal or nonverbal cues as she's going through the lease that this might be a problem. And then thirdly, determine the resident's preference in at least so many areas on the leasing documents where the resident can customize the agreement. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. On page 116, it talks about vital, and I think we're hitting on it. How you can win. All right, we did that. Ways to help you customize. Let residents play a part. These things can add to your income, folks. I tell you my whole thing, one of my core concepts is let residents play a part. Total move-in cost required. We've actually already talked about this. When we talked about, will you work with me? How much deposit is required? Instead of paying a full deposit, what do we offer them? Increase rent for less deposit. So we talk about move-in costs required. We let you play a part. Additional amenities. That's the supersize program. Would you like some additional amenities added into your properties? Here's what we offer. And closet organizers is the right term. I don't know why my mind wasn't connecting with that earlier. But in fact, closet organizers and washer and dryers are the 2 most popular amenities for middle-of-the-road properties. For lower income properties, an extra AC or extra window AC or a flat screen TV is 2 of the most popular. For a higher end, lawn care or house cleaning service. So just to share with you some of the things people are willing to pay extra for. Rent due date. Let's ask a question to, when's your rent due? First, 15th, or 30th. Why the difference between the 1st and the 30th?
Usually it's just the 1st and the 15th.
Okay. I'm going to suggest to you, one of the things that we offer, and you'll see it in our rent, is we give you the option of paying on the 1st, or you can pay every 2 weeks. And if you pay every 2 weeks, we cut the price in rent in half. So instead of paying $1,000, you pay $500 every 2 weeks. By the way, that's not an installment payment. The total amount due every 2 weeks is $500. The total amount due. I'm emphasizing that because if they don't pay the $500, what do? We start eviction process. We start that process. Normally, we don't have to end up going to court, but we start off with, if there's a late fee involved, that late fee kicks in soon as it kicks in at that point. It's not like half of the money for rent is being paid. No, the full amount due is $500. What's the big deal, by the way, with this strategy? You get an extra month. Not only do you get the money faster, but you get an extra month worth of rent over the course of the year. You get an extra month worth of rent. Your hands start to go up in the back? I don't. I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but up to this point, I have not voice recorded it. the interaction. Now talk to me though. Sounds like an interesting concept. Why are you doing that? In case they later say,
Do we have records?
do we have records?
No, we have records.
Gotcha. Interesting. But now from a recording standpoint, all these things, I'm actually constructing the lease based on their responses. So if they want the due date every 2 weeks, that's actually incorporated into the lease. If they want a customized upgrade, we're not just verbally talking about it. If they say yes, it's incorporated into the lease at that time. If they want the deposit to be lower and the rent higher, so all of this is not just verbally being communicated, it's actually being incorporated into the lease. And some of these, there's even a little line next to it on the lease agreement where they're signing their initials. So it's not just a verbal thing going on here. All of it that's being said and asked, we're working together to fill out the lease. I don't know if you can catch the full power of this, but if people play a part in the decision-making process, they're much more likely to go along with your program. They're much more likely to go along with your program because they feel like they played a part in it. It's a powerful concept. Question up here? She says that she allows the rent payment to be lined up whenever they get paid.
But my question, though, is...
Well, before you even go to your question, just my feedback on that. I used to do that as well, but as my number of properties increased, I tried to get it to be more of a standard thing so that it's either the 1st or the 5th if they are on some type of Social Security or something like that, or every 2 weeks, every other Tuesday. Because I found as I had more properties, then now somebody's having to check and whether rent's being paid throughout the whole month, and that can be an extra whole little, even though we're not collecting it, because now most of our rents are being paid either by money being paid directly into the bank account, or it's being deducted from their account through a third-party company, ACH. But someone still has to check to see on those payments being made to the bank, were they made? And if not, we're starting the eviction process. And we didn't want to have a whole bunch of eviction processes being started throughout the month, especially when we have to end up in court on a few of them. We'd rather all of them be at the same time. And you say, Jeffrey, you mean you end up with a few? Yeah, out of 200 rentals, we'll end up with a few that we have to go to court. And in most cases, most of them will pay. Maybe one won't that month, but we still had to start the eviction process. Now, your question.
I guess it's kind of an observation now.
Well, in Virginia, it's now 14 days.
So if they pay every 2 weeks,
Yeah?
then
It's still to your advantage to have it pay every 2 weeks. Yeah, it's to your advantage because now you can check on them every 14 days to see if they're still, every 2 weeks to see if they're still doing what they're supposed to do. And I can start the process quicker because put it this way.
Well, you still have to start eviction.
No, because the eviction starts with the pay or quit notice, which now is not 5 days, it's 14 days in your particular case, in my particular case.
Oh, you mean the notice says they have
The
14
notice.
days to pay.
Yes.
I was talking about late fees can't be charged until
Oh, no, I can start late fees immediately.
not anymore.
Oh, you can? Well, I have to have... So on late fees, excuse me, folks. She's from my state. In fact, she's only about 30 minutes, 40 minutes away. But we only meet in settings like this. All
The more
right.
times you collect rent, the more times you kind of have to.
All right. But back to what you were saying. Are you saying we can't charge a late fee for 5 days now?
Days, yeah.
When did that happen?
A few months ago, I guess. I don't
You sure?
I sure as I could be. but
Okay. All right.
I'm talking to Mr. Landlord, so now I gotta go double check and see.
All right. I need to check that. I didn't know that you said...
I used to do it right the next
Yep, I used to do it. I still do it. So I need to stop doing it if that's the case. All righty, back to our training. Where did we leave off? Let residents play a part in the process.
They've had a grace period, so that's like where that.
Grace period is what sparked it. I want to talk about in the new resident orientation. To present yourself in a professional manner. When you're giving the lease, when you're giving any addendums, how do you give it to people? Do you just give it to them?
Sitting down at the table.
The reason I ask that, not trying to be funny or anything, but we like to give it in a professional looking folder to make it appear more professional in what we're doing, as opposed to just here's a bunch of papers. We think the presentation is important in terms of setting the tone of this relationship. So that's just a suggestion to you. We have a checklist that we go through, approval and move-in checklist for the owner or the manager to use. And so that's just a checklist. When we're doing our new resident orientation, getting ready for it, going through it, here are all the things that need to take place during that approval and move-in process. I would strongly suggest that you have a checklist for your approval and move-in process, especially if you end up having somebody else do it at some point. Sample lease agreement. Well, let me make sure I'm not missing something else I wanted to talk about here. Vital lease topics. While I'll be talking about some of the things that's in the lease, these are things that should be addressed, in my opinion, in your lease. Pets. I said to you earlier, start including a pet inspection fee. But what's my point? Pets need to be addressed from the standpoint of what even defines what a pet is. Okay, I used to just say no pets. Now when you look at my lease, it describes the different types of animals that are considered pets. Because some people would bring something in, goldfish, fish, for example, in an aquarium. They wouldn't consider that a pet. Number of occupants. What's the big deal here? Yeah, your lease says only 2 people can occupy, but we define in the lease what's a resident versus what's a guest. Because if not, people move extra people in, and what do they immediately tell you? They're visitors. So now we define what's a resident versus what's a guest. So if you've been in the property for more than 7 consecutive days, you're no longer, by definition of the lease, you're no longer a guest, you're a resident. Or if you've been in there so many days in a 30-day period, you're no longer a guest, you're a resident. So we don't have to get into an argument about, well, they're a guest, they're not a resident. No, according to the lease, they're a resident. So that's what I mean when I'm saying address these things. Appliances. Do any of you make appliances something that's not really part of the rental agreement? I would suggest that you do. What do you mean by that? A clause says they're here free to use on loan, but they're not a part of the agreement. In other words, if you need us to take them away, we'll be glad to take them away. What's the whole point of this? When they break down, you're not responsible for taking care of it. But even more importantly, if people realize that, they won't be as quick to mess it up. If they know that it's not going to be, you're not going to be coming automatically with another refrigerator or another stove. To be honest with you, if they've been a great resident for the last 6 years, I'll get them another stove or refrigerator. This is really for those people who might try to abuse the situation, and they've been there for 3 months and all of a sudden the refrigerator's no longer working. And you know it was working well. It's not like it was on its last leg or something. Utilities. Who's responsible for utilities? That's usually pretty clear. However, do you say that non-payment of utilities is considered a violation of the lease? I do. Okay. Alterations. Learned that one the hard way. That's been in my lease for a long time. No alterations. I had one property where it was painted, the rooms were painted all black. And I didn't have any clause in there that talked about no alterations. It really wasn't damaged. They just altered it. So technically, I didn't have a right to withhold money because I didn't say no alterations to the property. Now we clearly have no alterations. Pests, single-family homes, we clearly let them know resident is responsible for pest control. We talked earlier about having pest treatment done before somebody moves in. I like the suggestion about having it certified for no bed bugs. Vehicles. We list what vehicles are on the application. It even asks you what vehicles you have. And so we don't want any unauthorized vehicles on the property. In fact, I've used tow trucks as a good way to get rid of people who shouldn't be there because their vehicles weren't authorized to be there. And they're not going to keep ending up paying $150 to get their car towed because we actually have decals that are given to individuals on our multi-units, not on the single family, but on our multi-units, whether it's a duplex, triplex, or bigger. We have decals, and we work with a company in our local area that moves them free of charge, so it doesn't cost us. By the way, if you are having trouble with individuals on a single-family home, it's nothing illegal about having a working relationship with a tow truck company and actually have a sign posted saying no unauthorized vehicle on the property. And if you're having that type of issue, and then start towing any cars that are there. I know none of you have any type of suspected illegal activity going on, but if you do, and people are parked there, and you have this policy in place, you can have those cars towed away, and they're not going to keep parking there if their cars are being towed away. Maintenance notification, damages, requests, address how you want to be notified from a maintenance standpoint. Some landlords like all maintenance done in writing. If it's an emergency, that would be an exception. Damages. Do you clearly let them know how, well, we talked about that. Here are the potential damages that might be in a property. And how do you handle service requests? And let them know that. Anniversary date. Notice I don't use end of the lease. I use anniversary date. By the way, when's the first anniversary date?
3 months.
Huh?
Which is for your,
Okay? Not necessarily. That's why I'm asking the question. No, it's not 3 months. The first anniversary date are in months that I'm okay with. What do I mean by that? Right now we're in, easier to rent months. Right now we're in the month of November. November, December, January, February. I don't like dealing, if at all possible, with move-outs and move-ins. Harder to find. Even using strategies where I'm reaching out, it's not as easy to find individuals ready to move right around Christmas, holidays. So, if you were moving in this month, on the lease agreement, the first anniversary date may be August, as opposed to November or December. Part of my lease management strategy. So it's nothing illegal about they have to stay for at least a year the first year. So we adjust that first year anniversary date. Now, every year after that, it's the same anniversary date. Mr. Taylor, but we're moving in now. Why are you doing the anniversary date in August? Well, you'll get your first anniversary gift sooner, Mrs. Jones. Is that okay? All right. Some people use another. Some school teachers have told me they use the summer months for vacation. They don't want to be doing lease signings during the summer months. They don't want to be dealing with move-outs and move-ins. And so they don't have any anniversary dates in June, July, and August. They'd rather do it during the school year when they're in town. So whatever works for you, I'm just letting you know you don't necessarily have to do it the first time 1 year after they move in. Joint liability, non-payment, the entire eviction process. Clearly let people know what do you do if there's a lease violation. Let them know if there's a non-payment, what takes place. Joint liability. Joint liability, everybody with me on that? If there's more than one person on the lease, everybody's responsible. Whether you are the primary payer or not. If you're over 18, you sign the lease. You might not be having income now, but after you get out of college, you may have the most income of everybody in the family. So everybody signs the lease. Everybody will be reported to the credit bureaus if you don't pay. everybody, whatever. Joint liability, and then the early lease move out. Good news. I use that term a lot when I'm communicating with residents. Everything is good news. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a strange question? I see
So what's your question? Yeah. After that year lease is up, my suggestion to you, that person's need to be added on an addendum to the lease. Only give a lease till what?
until he turns 18. Or
Well, in essence, isn't that what I just said?
almost.
Because I won't add them to the lease until they're 18, but I'm not going to do it immediately turn they turn 18. But on the next time we're doing an anniversary date, we're going to have an addendum where they're going to sign. Okay? All righty. Moving residents in. I used to walk through, condition report. Here's how I used to do it. I used to say, walk around, go through, and you got up to 5 days to let me know if there's any problems, to let us know. Now, forget that, because it's kind of like over that 5-day period, they're looking for anything they can find wrong to add to the list. I still give them the opportunity to have 5 days, but the way it's presented is totally different. Now, when we walk through the lease with a property condition report, we are saying, this is good, this is good, this is good. You let me know if it's not, but as we're looking, this is good. We mark everything as good, satisfactory, and have them sign it right then. Now, if there's something obviously that's not right, we go ahead and take care of it immediately. But again, when we finish the conversation, what are they walking away thinking? Everything's good. So even though they still legally have a few days to look it over and let us know, very seldom does that happen now. But in the past, when we just said, you do your walkthrough, and you got up to 5 days to get it back to us, not the walkthrough part, but after you move in, you got up to 5 days to contact us and let us know if there's a problem. We would get back within those 5 days almost half the time. Well, here's something that needs to be done. So now we've totally changed the way we do that. In fact, we haven't done it that way in a long time. But that's how we handle the condition report. Happy clause, that's talking about as you're going through it with me, if all of a sudden you start talking about, wait a minute, this needs to be, wait, whoa, you're not happy? We need to stop. We need to stop. This is not going to work well for you, and it's not going to work well for us. Everybody's going to be frustrated. Move in with move out in mind. You take pictures, you do a video, you do move out charges. All I'm saying is I'm thinking about how this relationship's going to end. I want you to be clear, even at the beginning, at the end, I'm doing things so that it's less ambiguous at the end on how it was when you moved in. I want it to be as clear as possible. The walkthrough takes place after we sat down for the new resident orientation. Now, some of you, talk to me, anybody, when they're in the property, or when you do the move-in, how do you guys handle it? Anybody, here's an opportunity if you want to share a quick move-in process for you. Yes.
Go over the lease as we get
You go over the lease, and where do you go over it? In the property they're moving into?
in the property.
Yep.
Get to different clauses that mention different things.
So as you get to different clauses that might mention something, you'll go around in the property and refer to it.
Like where the rental agreements say, water shut off.
All right, so the comment is, as you get to the different spots in the lease that you can utilize the property for, you actually go and do that. So property condition report, all right, let's do that walkthrough right now. Where different things are on the property, let's talk about that, let's show it. In fact, I actually use what I call a fancy term, a resident handbook, that has more of the maintenance type things, or the more of the where the circuit breaker are, where this is. And I'm kind of breaking it up because I don't want the lease to be too long. So in reference to upkeep, we use that. It works out good because when there's something that goes wrong, they're more inclined to go to that resident handbook instead of the whole lease, just to give you a different way of doing that. With the standard lease in mind, warning clauses, page 117, which is not on 117, and so now I've got to quickly try to figure out where those warning clauses are. Oh, yeah, they are at the top. Clauses that say residents give up their legal rights. You can't have any clauses say they give up their legal rights, that limit their liability, that allow a landlord to enter at his own any time for any reason. I'm bringing this to your attention because some landlords actually have clauses like that. Clauses that allow the landlord to immediately seize the resident's property or start eviction. So you don't want to have any of those, obviously you don't want to have any of those kind of clauses in your agreement. Professional presentation, I talked to you about a welcome folder.